Ben Sasse is on the record anti-gay marriage, anti-transgender people, and anti-abortion. He poses a threat to all students that may be queer or non-men.
I feel that a lot of marginalized groups on campus will feel less safe and less secure.
He is just too divisive and will fracture the UF community here.
Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse is receiving a rather rude welcome from some students at the University of Florida this week. Sasse will resign his post in the Senate and is set to become the school's president early next year. Senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram has that story tonight. Chad, good evening.
Trace, GOP Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse aims to leave the D.C. swamp for another swamp, the home of the University of Florida Gators. But some students greeted Sasse as though he came from in-state rival Florida State. Students hectored Sasse with profane chants when he came to campus for meetings. University police whisked Sasse away when students tried to swarm the senator. Some students say Sasse's stance on same-sex marriage doesn't blend with the school.
How do you plan to engage with and give a greater voice to LGBTQ plus students, faculty, and staff at UF and in the broader Gainesville community?
And I think that a community like UF needs to be a community of inclusion where everyone feels heard, everyone feels respected, where there is trust.
A Change.org petition contends Sasse's views don't line up with the University of Florida.
We believe that Ben Sasse, the senator from Nebraska, is wholly unfit to be the next president of the University of Florida. Not only is he partisan, he is a known Republican, so we all know what his policy platforms are.
The school expects to ratify Sasse's appointment in November.
We needed somebody who was innovative and transformative. And his ability to understand how the world is changing and how education needs to change to meet a changing world.
The clash may have been unavoidable.
You find yourself in an environment of idealists, particularly faculty members. They're idealists. But in this particular case, of course, you have idealism crossing paths with partisan politics. And I think that's why you're seeing the vitriol in the protests.
Sasse led a small college in Nebraska before his election to the Senate. He's also not the first senator to jump from the Senate to a university. Former Senator David Boren was president at the University of Oklahoma for nearly a quarter century. Trace?
Chad, thank you. Let's talk about this with the liberal backlash to Senator Sasse's upcoming career change. Kick off tonight's lightning round with KTTH Seattle Talk Radio host Jason Rantz. I love the comment from the student, Jason, who says not only is he partisan, he's Republican, right? You love that. Here, by the way, is Ben Sasse when he was asked about the welcome he got at the University of Florida. Listen to him.
The disruption of the last section isn't the most fun experience in the world, but it is a proper and right thing for free speech to be able to be exercised and people's voices heard.
I mean, it's not as if Ben Sasse is the biggest Trump fan on the planet. You know, it's one of those things where there's a lot of Democrats who have gone on to be presidents of other universities without half the hubbub. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is so embarrassing, but I can't say that any of us should be shocked by this. College students, while they love to talk about how inclusive they are and how accepting they are and they love diversity, except, of course, they're not inclusive of people who think differently than they are. This is a great lesson for them to take into the real world, that no one cares that you're offended. The fact of the matter is you are going to be in the real world with people who, I know this is controversial, might disagree with you. And you're going to have to figure out how to emotionally cope with that reality, the same way that all of us have to cope with the fact that you guys are so intolerant. You see, I'm not complaining about you. I'm just calling you guys out because you're kind of a bunch of big babies.
Yeah, the same way you have to cope with in Seattle this crazy policy that could be adopted, right? This is Seattle police have adopted or drafted a policy, not adopted yet, I shouldn't say that could allow DUI suspects to flee even if the car was stolen. Quoting here, if the driver flees, officers are instructed to allow it to leave, broadcast last direction of travel, and complete an incident report. We are in new territory, Jason.
And it's actually even worse than that when you read the second part of this policy. If an officer comes upon a car that is actually operating, but the guy behind the wheel is passed out, foot is on the brake, a needle sticking out of his arm. If the officer is not able to awaken this guy, they just have to leave. This is a clear and obvious threat, and the sad and scary part is, even though this policy hasn't yet been officially adopted by the Seattle Police Department, it's already being used in a number of the precincts, and officers have already been told that they have to follow this. People will die if they don't end this ridiculous policy. We have gone so far to one side in not trusting police officers to do the jobs they're trained to do. And then, of course, just giving endless chances to people who should not get them. I thought this was non-controversial, that everyone seems to understand DUI suspects are dangerous.
So the Washington State Senate race, you're talking about Tiffany Smiley. She's in front. Let's put these pictures on the screen. So she's doing campaign ads, and she's in front of a Starbucks that has been boarded up. And then you have the Senator, Patty Murray, who goes to a different coffee shop that's open in the same town. Yes. And she's saying, oh, everything's fine. There's no crime in Seattle. Howard Schultz, by the way, this is the CEO of Starbucks, says, quoting here, in my view, at the local, state, and federal level, these governments across the country and leaders, mayors, and governors and city councils have abdicated their responsibility in fighting crime and addressing mental illness. Your final thoughts on this, Jason?
Yeah, during this photo op for Patty Murray, 30 minutes beforehand, just literally a few blocks away, there was a 911 call for a larceny theft. During the day she was there, there were 11 emergency calls to 911. Again, just blocks away. A few hours later from this photo op, 2 teenagers were shot. So when you look at all of the data, it shows what she is claiming, because now I guess we're back in the strategy of Democrats pretending that there's no crime crisis. Crime is rampant, and she's responsible in large part.
And it's interesting because these last two we talked about could be hand in hand. Seattle's police force is low on people. I mean, low on officers. So who knows? Maybe they're saying, listen, you can't really we don't have the forces to chase people around who are on DUIs. I don't know. Jason Rantz, good to see you. As always, thank you.
Good to see you. Appreciate it.
Well, coming up.